How about 4 of them? Count them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Never thought I'd see the day Coach Keevers holds up 4 in a flick after the game, right? But we saw that more than once. Greyhounds secure 4 straight Great Lakes Valley Conference championships in a row. Most recent one coming after a 7-point win, 28-21 over Upper Iowa. Absolutely huge. Gavin Sukup, 3 touchdowns, and for the Greyhounds was one of the most, probably the most competitive game of their season, lowest scoring on their season as well. Jake, you were in attendance, great game.
Yeah, I mean, a great showing. I think if you're the Greyhounds, probably a little closer than you would have liked. Heading into halftime, it was tied. I don't know that that's exactly what you would have wanted if you were Coach Keevers, or maybe not how you had planned that game going. But you find a way to win. The game's in the hand of the defense. Upper Iowa has the ball. They're driving down the field. They get into the red zone, knocking on the door of the end zone. Alvin Contreras shows up when he's needed most. The game-sealing interception, sending the Greyhounds not only home with their 4th straight GLVC championship, but a 4th straight NCAA tournament bid. First round, they got Truman State. If you were with us last week, well, that episode aged pretty well for me. Truman State will be coming to Indianapolis as Bulldog fans probably not too happy with the results of the draw, and there might have been a little bit of tomfoolery with that. They may or may not be just 5 miles too far away from Ferris for a bus ride. Maybe there was a little gerrymandering, so to speak, with the way the rankings worked. But either way, I think this plays in the Greyhounds' favor. They win this one. They have a chance at a rematch with Findlay, or they might get to play a new NCIS school, or NSIC, excuse me, a new school in Minnesota State, Mankato.
And I may be wrong to say it, but if you're the Greyhounds, let's get Findlay round 2. Let's get Findlay round 2. That's a game where you traveled to Ohio and really thought that you should have won that game. I remember the sour taste in that organization being the lone loss on the year for the Hounds, where they lost 38-35. So even if you were to travel to Findlay for round 2, you know that you've gone, you've seen, and you should have conquered at that point. But in round 1, we saw the video last night. I saw Brandon Stuckey, in particular, Grant Ray, posted the video of Truman State being announced as that opponent, and we heard that room erupt. We heard that room erupt. They want Truman, and I'm sure they want the Greyhounds as well.
Yeah, not so fast. I think Truman fans might have something to say about this. You look back to the matchup. I think the score shows a little bit different than maybe what the game actually was. A little bit closer for Truman. 30-20 when they met earlier in the season. But you look at that game, the Greyhounds ran for 293 yards on the ground, only allowed 71. I'm looking at this game. The winner of the rushing battle is going to win this game. It's been that way for the Greyhounds, and it's going to continue to be that way in the postseason. Got to run the ball to throw the ball. They've been doing that over the past 5-6 weeks. Now, can they take it to Truman and do the same thing? I think they can. The biggest issue with that game that I have is the Greyhounds struggled to finish off drives. They had 3 field goals and 1 turnover on downs against Truman State. Obviously, that's on the road, maybe a little bit different environment, but last time Truman State came here, they gave the Greyhounds a little bit of trouble.
Indianapolis and Truman State. It's a rivalry that has sat atop the GLVC for at least my entire tenure here at the school. Truman State, always a game circled on the schedule. When we ask Coach Keevers about it, he says that they recruit the same type of guys. They want the same type of team. They want to play a similar brand of football, but the Greyhounds have dominated that matchup for at least the last 4 years. So for Truman, in the same regard as Upper Iowa, you know that you are going to get your best game from them. And you know that this isn't a team that you can necessarily overlook.
Well, how about this, Caden? Truman State, first time they've made the Division II playoff since 1994. 20 years plus since they've been in, a little bit over, actually, 30 years. So they're going to be playing for a little bit more than just their first playoff game. They really want to win this game. Truman State, they already fell to the Greyhounds. They're going to come back with vengeance. We know that they are a tough team, and they have a pretty solid defense, so Greyhounds going to have to come out and execute to make it to round 2.
Football continues to act valiant and great. on the football field as we move over to the hardwood, where basketball hasn't started as well as you'd like for the Hounds, given that you've played some incredible competition the first few weeks. We'll look at James Sharp's women's team first off, 0-2 after playing number 6 Ashland, and a Malone team that was very, very good. Jake, you were on the call for both of these.
I think Ashland and Malone, the past couple of years, they've been 1-2 in the GMAC. This year, Malone, they're just a little bit better. They've got a big in Erin Kaufman. She put up 24 against the Greyhounds. She had 20 against them last year. She was first all-team GMAC, and I think she's going to continue to do that, and she might even win some of the national awards. That Malone team is very scary, but the Greyhounds did put up a good fight. Turnovers ultimately ended that one for them. Just too many of those. They piled up. Especially heading into the halftime break, the Greyhounds hit a little stretch where they were struggling to score, and that kind of led to a 20-point lead that turned into a 30-point lead, and it never really came back. But I really want to talk about this Ashland game. They're ranked number 6 in the preseason poll. Probably won't be come next week as they lost to Wayne State the day after they played the Greyhounds. But as I look at this Ashland game, I want to talk about Autumn Rucker. You want to talk about improvement from season to season. Rucker dropped 16 against the best team, or one of the best teams in the nation, and 2 of those were back-to-back and ones to cut the lead to 5. They were down by 22 points at one point in the first quarter or first half, and then in the second half they cut it down to 5 with about 5 minutes to go, but came down to turnovers. They were forcing Ashland to make turnovers, but the Greyhounds just a few too many mistakes on the back end of that game to come out with a win.
And let's look at this year compared to last year, okay? So we take a look at this year's schedule, playing number 6 Ashland, and then Malone, who's going to end up ranked very, very soon. This year, 68-61 in favor of Ashland. If we go back to last year, Greyhounds lost 71-47. Same 2 games open up your slate. Malone, last year, we look at Malone, 94-57 in a loss for the Greyhounds. This season, 85.
Well, flip those, other way around. 85 last season, 94. They were on pace to score over 100 points. The Greyhounds did play a little bit better defense in the second half, but the 3-point shooting of Malone, that's where the Greyhounds are really going to have to figure it out this season, is defending on the perimeter. I think the offensive ability is there this season. It's going to be whether or not they can close out on shooters. There were a lot of late closeouts, and it led to a lot of made threes from Malone.
Well, we talk about these scores because it seems that there is a different energy around this team, and you don't want to say it was a shock, but to go into Ashland and play them within single digits, you don't want to call it an achievement, but this is a stepping stone, something to build off of against some great competition that you want to play later in the season.
Absolutely. You're going to look back at this game come GLVC tournament time. It's going to be one of those games that becomes very valuable. You play one of the better teams in another conference. Now you get to go play the best teams in your conference, and it helps you out just a little bit getting to that level. Someone that's returning for the Greyhounds, Myra Sapender, a graduate student. The Greyhounds are very thankful to have her back on the floor. She had 10 rebounds against Ashland, a career high for her. And it was a great weekend for the Greyhounds getting things started. Obviously, you would have liked different results, but I think that overall you're happy with what you saw, and you can take a lot of things and improve upon them come Thursday.
Men's squad under Coach Hetty in a similar boat. 0-2 after playing 2 very solid teams to start their year. Their opener was in Owensboro, Kentucky at the Owensboro Sports Center, where they play Kentucky Wesleyan in a rather close game. 73-67 is that final at the end of the night. I myself was on that call, and it's a similar situation. You see things that you like, but it's a team that needs to throw a lot together. Kentucky Wesleyan, however, very good, very athletic. They hit their shots. Greyhounds didn't necessarily have a terrible offense. Pretty efficient, near 50% shooting on the day. Shot a little over 40% from deep. But defensively, Kentucky Wesleyan hit too many shots. You trailed by double digits in the rebounding category by the time that game was over. That can't persist. We moved to Grand Valley, where they lost 75-66. Maybe not as good of a showing from the Hounds.
Yeah, 22 turnovers, 7 more than the highest the Greyhounds have had under Coach Hetty. Before that, it was 15. But you saw right there Kelvin Amoko getting up on the rim. He's one of the biggest improvements from season to season, as he's now got a double-double against Grand Valley, 10 points, 10 rebounds. He played for 35 minutes. We talked to Coach Hetty in a post-game interview. He said that's too many minutes. He doesn't want Amoko out on the floor, but when you're playing a squad like Grand Valley, they had 3 guys over 6'8" on the floor pretty much all times. So you're playing against the height. Amoko's really the only answer. Sean Arnold plays a good second to him, but a guy they're looking for is Parker LaPlay. when Play comes back, that's the backup center. He's going to provide a lot of time off the court. He said he wants to play Kelvin max 25 minutes. He wants 25 good minutes. He doesn't want to waste any time on the court and waste his energy, anything like that. But endurance is another thing that Emoko has improved on from season to season. Just a large step that we're seeing.
And even in a game where we're seeing a lot of 5-out, Kelvin Emoko's a 7-footer who does a lot of his work on the blocks. And, we're starting to get to the point where that's almost archaic in competitive basketball, but not necessarily at the Division II level. At Division II level, you see old-fashioned centers like this really thrive, and that's why we're starting to see Kelvin Emoko really come into his element. How about a double-double with 18 points against Kentucky Wesleyan, a second against Grand Valley where he has 10 and 10. We've seen great improvement, and for you to comment on his playing time and coach comments on that playing time, that fits him really well. I think that's great to hear, great to see, because you want your center in there banging, right? You want your center in there getting 10, 12 rebounds at a time. You want him scoring 12, 15 points, working the pick and roll. And what that does, it takes a lot of physical exertion. So 25 minutes, not a bad number to see for Kelvin Emoko, especially as this team continues to progress. And also Pierce Thomas.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's another guy I wanted to mention. 20 points, 5 for 6 from the three-point line. His only miss on the night came on a forced 3 at the end of the game, just trying to make something happen. He looked phenomenal in his return to Nickerson Hall.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. And I could even tell Kentucky Wesleyan that the stroke was there, man. This guy's shooting the lights out in the gym. He's really seeing an uptick from performance last year. And I know this is a guy that has dealt with a lot of injury throughout his college basketball career. You would not be able to tell. And he's adapting very well. Looks great on the handle. Shot looks great. I love to see this team improve. But I think it starts at that guard position. Need to find need to find a leader that can initiate your offense.
Well, they get what I would consider an easy one this weekend, I guess Cup coming on Wednesday, as I've been told that the team they're playing was a D3 team that only had 2 wins last year, so maybe a chance to get the ship back in the right direction for the Greyhounds. But you want to talk about action? How about the UFC this weekend? Absolutely packed card. There was a lot going on, and you saw a lot of faces that you might not have seen in the octagon for a while. The champion Islam Makhachev, now the double champion at welterweight, and Valentina Shevchenko also might have just put herself in the GOAT debate, and that's where I want to start this. Shevchenko, she takes down Zhang Weili, who is arguably one of the best in her weight class and probably should go back down to 115. I don't know that 125 is necessarily her game. At 10 pounds, it's about 10% of your body weight at that weight. So it's definitely a lot harder for them to go up division. But you look at Shevchenko. She was in a trilogy against Alexa Grasso. They tied the first one. She lost her belt to Alexa Grasso in that second one. And then in that third one was UFC Noche. After she won that, it's been absolute domination. Minot Fior, she absolutely dominated her for 5 rounds. Threw her on the ground. She's the biggest in that division. She's the biggest 125er in the history of that division, other than maybe Amanda Nunes, who we'll get to in a second. But you also look at this fight against Zhang Weili. She never stood a chance. Shevchenko absolutely dominated her the entire fight. I think you might have to start talking about her being in that GOAT debate. I think she has 9, 10 title defenses now. Her numbers are insane.
And it's insane to see because for Zhang Weili, especially in the lower weight class, has looked unbeatable. She has looked amazing. She is throwing girls across the mat, killing their competition. So for her to lose this and give up a lot of ground on the ground in the wrestling game, which is where I feel like Zhang Weili really succeeds, it was tough to see. It's a shock. It's a wake-up call for the UFC.
It was a shock to see, and I think that's why people are starting to put her in the debate. You dominate a champ. You look back to when Islam took down Volk. That was when he got put into the top pound-for-pound fighting, and now Shevchenko doing the same for herself. But I want to talk about that GOAT debate. I'm sticking with the Lioness. I'm sticking with Amanda Nunes. She's still the GOAT. Let me just run through a quick little resume real quick. She knocked out Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey, and Miesha Tate all in the first round. All of those fights ended in the first 5 minutes. She also choked out Juliana Pena. She's just one of the best. She shuts the lights out. There's no doubt when she steps in the octagon, and we might be privileged enough to get to see her back in the octagon against one of the best, Kayla Harrison, in just a few short months. 2026, the Lioness has announced she is potentially making a comeback.
The thing about it, Amanda Nunes is amazing in every facet of mixed martial arts. And if this fight were to stay on the feet at all, I don't think there's a competition.
I would have to agree
I don't
with
think that anybody can stand with Amanda Nunes in the octagon. Not in today's UFC.
But that's why Kayla Harrison, former judo gold belt, Olympic gold belt, that's why she has maybe an advantage in my eyes. But let's move on to the main event of the night. Islam Makhachev moves up 15 pounds to welterweight, and, well, he absolutely dominates. I think the best analogy for it is a wet blanket. It's like a wet blanket. You just can't get him off of you. It is impossible to escape that top pressure of Makhachev. It's the Dagestani wrestling. No one's better, and he comes out and proves it. We saw JDM handle Bilal, and Bilal was the former welterweight champ. He provided a very similar challenge to what Islam brought. But to compare Bilal and Islam is the first mistake anybody might have made, and Islam is just an entirely different game. He was taking JDM down. He was on the ground before he even realized Islam was shooting a shot. Yeah. And then you look back to round 4 and 5, he was grimacing the whole time, didn't know how to check a leg kick. I really wanted to see more out of the champ, or I guess the now former champ, Jack Della Maddalena. I mean, he just looked unprepared. The only thing he looked prepared for was the sub attempts, the Darce choke that Islam loves. He got Dustin Poirier with that. He tried 2 or 3 times, could not get it. That was really, the submission attempts were the only thing that I felt like he was well prepared for. Didn't check kicks. Honestly, I thought Islam outboxed him on the feet, and they say JDM's the best boxer in the UFC.
You know, I think we really throw all the Dagestani guys into this circle and kind of think that they're all the same archetype, same guy, same skill set, but we forget just how high, how great that Islam and Khabib really are. And honestly, I know Khabib has his own argument for GOAT, but Islam has done everything. And he's beat everybody.
I think he's above him.
And I think he goes and fights Ilya, and, you know, he might get his light shut off. But I give him a shot against Ilya.
I don't think that fight's going to happen anytime soon. But as I look at it right now, resume-wise, you just look at who Islam has beat compared to who who Khabib beat, and it's nowhere near. Islam has a way better resume. He's now tied with Kamaru Usman for the most wins at welterweight, or the most wins, I think, or the longest win streak with 16. Yeah. Islam has everything you can think of. I say he's in the debate on the Mount Rushmore, so top 4, but I don't think he's the number 1. John Jones is still probably the GOAT, the best to ever do it. I think John Jones and George St. Pierre are probably still the 2 that are going to take that GOAT debate, kind of your LeBron and Jordan, but I do think that he's slowly working his way up into that debate.
That's the UFC. On Last Call, we have Division I football. We're talking football and basketball on Last Call.
Okay, guys, seriously, basketball and hockey have got to be the best sports around. Speed, skill, drama, 7-game series, they have got it all.
Nah, baseball is the best sport, and that's just a fact, Jace.
You guys are both wrong. It's 100% football. You guys need to get on the football train.
Everyone stop. Why fight now when you can watch us debate on Grand Slam Sports on YouTube on Fridays at 6 p.m. or on Xfinity Channel 1096.
It's just about that time. As the season begins to come to the conclusion, we're going to look at this 12-team playoff format with all of our teams inside there. Ohio State, IU, Georgia, all the way down the list. Texas A&M, Notre Dame, even a few maybe even to sneak in to this point. Got to say that we are excited here on Last Call to finally get it going. We'll start at Week 13, but a little bit of football until we get there. Jake, what's your outlook?
Well, as I look at it, I think the biggest move is going to be Alabama. Alabama drops a game to Oklahoma. Oklahoma is going to move up in that poll. In the AP poll, they already hopped Alabama. Alabama's back to behind Notre Dame, and that's going to be the big debate the committee's going to have this week is who's better, a 2-loss Notre Dame who has losses to the number 3 team in the nation and the number 12 team in the nation, or is it going to be Alabama who has a loss to, well, now a top 10 team in Oklahoma, but an unranked Florida State. I don't see Alabama. I think that Notre Dame has the better resume. I think they stand the better chance of getting that 8 over the 9, and that's kind of what you have up over there. 8 versus 9, winner plays Ohio State. Okay. I think Notre Dame holds the resume a little bit, especially with the way that they've picked it up. They're on a 7-game win streak, I'm pretty sure, and they're going to end off the season undefeated, not counting those first 2 games.
And Freddie, we've talked a lot of Notre Dame football throughout this year, and we keep on going back to those first 2 weeks that just seem to not pan out in the favor of the Fighting Irish. But this is a team that legitimately can do a lot come week 13 and the weeks after. Ohio State does stand in that second round, but if you are to end up in that 8-9, do you feel like Notre Dame can compete with the best of the best in the SEC?
You know, and before you even asked me about Notre Dame, I think that was going to be my talking point already about just the most concerning team to me, because, you know, they have a 2-loss record. They've lost twice, but I don't think this is the same team as last year at all. I don't think these guys have the same potential to get as far. And as far as Ohio State's concerned, we have to evaluate Jeremiah Smith. He's had an injury. So depending on his health and how healthy he is, I think that will play a lot into the Big Ten championship with IU coming up and the playoffs.
The one gripe that I have with the college football playoff is that I think your skill sets and that skill curve from these top 4, I think that drops off a lot right after number 3 and number 4. I think you have your top 3 in Ohio State, IU, and Texas A&M, and I would be very, very surprised to see anybody outside of those 3 even make it to the national championship. Is that invalid to say?
I think that you do have a good point there, but I think the thing that I really want to talk about is how good of a weekend this was for the James Madison Dukes. The Dukes come out of nowhere. I don't think people were really expecting them to make it into the playoffs, but I don't think they were expecting them to have the season that they did, especially considering you lose Curt Cignetti 2 years ago, and now you're trying to rebuild your program with a new head coach. They find a way. They have a chance to end the season Sun Belt champions in 12-1. Now that South Florida lost, opens up a perfect floor for the James Madison Dukes to make it into the college football playoffs, where there's a chance they could play IU. There's a chance they could get a win. This James Madison team is not to be messed with. They're one of the better Power 4 or G4 teams that have a chance to get into the playoffs right now. I think that they might be better than South Florida.
So you would throw them in the 10 spot around where Oregon might be at this point?
They would be the 12 on my thing. It would be the AC. The way that I think the ACC is going to play out, if Georgia Tech loses to Georgia, I think that's probably going to happen, and that's going to drop them back a little bit. That leaves the 11 and 12 open for those auto bids from what will be the ACC and then the Sun Belt. If the AAC pretty much lost their bid. Navy's the only team that has a chance to get in. North Texas has a little room to make their way in, but they need a lot of things to fall their way. That's kind of the way things are going. But James Madison, they've already had the things fall their way. All the trees are down. They're just ready to walk through the forest.
Freddie, is there any team outside the top 3, top 4 that you could see posing a threat to those juggernauts atop college football right now?
I would say Oregon. I would say Oregon's probably the only team outside of that top 5. They're ranked at 8 right now. But outside of that, I think Oregon has the best chance to make one of these teams, you know, honestly scared. I mean, when you look at Oregon's record, they only have 1 loss. That loss was to Indiana. So, I mean, when you look at them and what they're going to be playing up against in the college football playoffs, they probably won't have a big challenge until that semifinal game, that game that's probably 1 or 2 games away from the national championship. So I am very confident in this Oregon Ducks football team.
Oregon is a good thing, or a good choice. They'll play USC coming up here in a little bit, and that's really going to be the deciding factor. Whoever wins that USC-Oregon game is going to have the 3rd spot in the Big Ten, and that's going to leave some room. If Ohio State messes up and loses to Michigan, they could be out of the Big Ten. Tiebreakers could fall the other way, but I think we're going to continue to see Ohio State, IU, and Texas A&M at that top 3 spot until maybe the last week where Texas might upset Texas A&M, but they didn't look too good this week. Let's move to basketball because I'm pretty excited. Basketball season is here, but let's go ahead and talk about some of the great teams, or at least what we think will be great teams this year. Freddie, start with you. You got a couple?
I do have a couple. And, you know, one thing in common with all of these great teams on my list, they also have one of the best players in college basketball right now. When you look at Duke, the Boozer twins, Cameron Boozer, for instance, 20 points per game, 22 points per game, also leads the team in points, rebounds, and assists. I think the Blue Devils are going to be a pretty dangerous team this year. You also have North Carolina. They have a stronger basketball team than last year. And they've also added Caleb Wilson, he's a 6'10 freshman out of Atlanta. He's averaging 20 points right now. And then BYU, they were a team that made some noise in March Madness last year without a solidified best player. I believe when they've added AJ DeBonsta, the best player in the country coming in from recruitment, I think that they'll have a really good chance of making some noise again in March Madness.
I look at a few teams, first of which is going to be the number one team in the country. These Purdue Boilermakers are the number one team in the country, and it might be close, but it's not as close as people think. I don't think Purdue's even playing their best basketball right now, and that's crazy to say because they just knocked off number 8 Alabama at Alabama, and Braden Smith is playing great, but outside of him, Trey Kaufman, Wren playing well. I think they have so many extra pieces to add to the game that people haven't looked at yet. I feel like guys like Jakari Harris have yet to really show what they can do on the big stage. And you're looking at these bigs and Jacobson. And I'm blanking on the name, but the South Dakota transfer who led the country in rebounds last year, they're starting to play really well as well. So it's hard for me to pick anyone over them, but a few guys are sitting right there in the middle of that top 25, and Alabama and St. John's are two teams I'm looking at, two really well-coached teams, which I think means more in the transfer portal era, more now than ever. You look at Nate Oates, you look at guys like Rick Pitino. I think that they are really utilizing the transfer portal to its utmost potential. I think you're going to see them sky in the rankings this year.
I got a team that maybe is off the radar for a couple of people, but it's the Louisville Cardinals. They just took down Kentucky in pretty dominant fashion. They were up by 15, 16 in different spurts of the game. Kentucky made a couple of comebacks and made it look a little bit nicer, but they put up 90 points on a good defensive Kentucky team. And this team, they're led by Michael Brown. He's one of the best players in college basketball right now. I'll sit here and say it right now. Michael Brown, come into season, he's going to be up for some awards. He's going to be on some of those first teams or whatever you want to call it. But they got two guys averaging 19.3 points per game. This Louisville team can score all around the court, but they have a nice three-point shooter in Conwell as well as Isaac McNeely. He can also get down low. This team just has all the pieces that you're looking for in a tournament team. Another squad that I like, just because of the freshman Koa Pete off of Arizona, they beat Florida week 1 and or their first game of the season. That's just I like the tone that they're setting with the beginning of this season for Arizona. But as you look at Arizona, they're in the Big 12. Big 12 is one of the hardest basketball conferences out there. Some people look at the SEC. I look at the Big 12. Big 12 is insane. You got Texas Tech, who's a top 10 team. You got Kansas, who is top 25 year in, year out. You also got to go play Baylor every year. You got to play Arizona State. And then Arizona is also in that conference. BYU is in there. There's so many good teams in the Big 12 this year. That's the conference I'm going to be looking for, and I think Arizona comes out on top.
College basketball, sure to be super, super fun this year. And I can't wait to see all of these teams do their best to not only make the tournament, but succeed in that tournament. Last call, we'll cover all of that for you, but watch out because IU is pushing inside that top 25 as well. When we come back, Colts, Pacers, all of the NBA, we're looking at the best big man in the league soon to come.
Good morning, Greyhounds, and welcome back to your Wednesday show. We have some very exciting things to talk about with our very special guest.
So what do you find unique about UIndy, and what kind of pulled you here?
What are you doing?
Watching Good Morning Greyhounds every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m.
Colts on their bye, the best they've ever been. Let's not touch it, right? Let's leave it be. Let's hope they do great moving on, playing teams like the Chiefs soon to come. We're going to talk the NBA in a big-time question. Best bigs in the league. Top 5 of them. I'll tell you mine first, okay? Let's throw it on up there. And I feel like your number 1, number 2, number 3 should be unanimous. I hope they're unanimous. With Jokic to the 1, Giannis 2, Victor, he's very close to 2. Let me say that. Victor is about half a season away from passing Giannis, and maybe not even that. But Alperen Sengun at 4, and Kat, who had a great playoffs, in my opinion, last year and continues to perform well, as my number 5. That's off the dome. Any first thoughts from you guys?
I like it. I love the throwing Wimby in there. Wimby is, I think you'll see that I might have had a little bit different opinion about Wimby, but the only person I don't have in mind that you have in yours is Sengun, and I honestly wasn't thinking about him as a big man. I just kind of think of him as more of a he plays power forward and he scores down low, but for whatever reason in my mind, he just serves as a small forward, and I couldn't put him on this list. I didn't feel right.
You know, I kind of forgot about Sengun, and I'm glad that you have him on your list because he is, you know, a heck of a ball player. But the same as Jake, I kind of think of him as like a 3 guard. He is a 4 guard, and he is a great 4 guard, but kind of a 3 guard in my opinion. But I like the list a lot, Caden.
All right, good deal.
We can take a look at mine. Pretty similar. As you said, top 3 are definitely unanimous, but that order might be a little bit different. I go ahead, and I'm going to throw up Victor Wembanyama at number 2. Nikola Jokic, he's one of the best to ever do it. He might go down in that top 5 conversation of best bigs to ever do it. He's had 6 seasons averaging 20-plus points per game. He's had over 7 assists per game since 2019, and he's been 50% from the field since 2019. You want to talk about great numbers? Nikola Jokic puts up the great numbers, and then we can finish off these last couple. Karl Anthony Towns, I agree with you. Being able to shoot the ball as a 3-man, or being able to shoot the 3 ball as a big man is what I value. And then I throw Bam on there. I think in retrospect, I would throw Sengun on there instead of Bam, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I prefer the defense a little bit more. Bam holds it down. I think when Jimmy Butler was there, Jimmy Butler was scoring the points, but Bam was holding it down on defense. And now that you don't have the offense, they're struggling to score. They're still playing good defense, and Bam is really the key to that.
Well, we can't just ignore the fact that you did have Victor over Giannis, which I think is incredibly disrespectful to Giannis, who has been the 3rd best player in the league for, 4 or 5 years, even before that, almost a unanimous one at that point. And we can look at the stats. Giannis still has him edged. Maybe you look defensively, Victor's going to average 5 blocks a game, which is almost inhumane. But Giannis is still that guy who is going to lead his team to a top 5 seed in the East, no question about it, and realistically give his team a shot at contendership every year.
Tell me how many times you've seen Giannis dribble down the court, go between the legs, step back,
3 ball,
hit a 3 in the face of the defender. I'm going to go ahead and tell you it's 0. He's never done that. Victor Wembanyama is doing things a big man has never done. No one's ever done the things that Victor Wembanyama is doing. Did you see how he did Draymond Green? I have the nastiest picture on my phone
That's
right
great.
now.
Go win. He drops a triple-double and loses. That's great. Giannis, on the other hand, while he is in the East, and you could say that the East is an easier conference, which it probably is, right? But Giannis doesn't need to go step back and hit a 3 in transition. Giannis has a game that has kept him as a top 3 player in the league for the past 5 years. Giannis doesn't need to change for the modern NBA. He doesn't need to change for a Stephen A. or any other talking head. Giannis is still to be a top 3 and still has room to move up.
Top 3, not 1 or 2 in my book.
All right.
I think I have to agree with Jake on this one. And Caden, I'm sorry, but if you dislike Jake on putting Wemby at 2, you are not ready for this list, my brother.
Come on, guys.
Starting at number 5, we have Anthony Davis. If he's healthy, I'm still taking Anthony Davis over most of these big men in today's game. Giannis at 4. I do have Giannis at 4, but the only thing about Giannis's game that I personally, don't like as much is his jumper. I don't like that his shot is inconsistent at most times. And as we know, the game's evolving. You're going to need to be able to shoot the ball, and that's just something that he lacks right now. At number 3, Joel Embiid. He's an MVP. He's still in Philly doing this thing. I know some of you guys might not like that one, but I do have Joel Embiid at number 3. At number 2, Nikola Jokic, and that might be surprising. That might be surprising, but he's the back-to-back MVP. But my number 1, I don't care what anyone says. There's probably going to be people in the comments angry at me. But ladies and gentlemen,
I'm angry at you, Freddie. We got to get off TikTok.
The best big man in the NBA, ladies and gentlemen. The best big man in the NBA, ladies and gentlemen, is Victor Wembanyama. We've never seen anything like him. He's a literal alien. Caden, have you ever seen Nikola Jokic take the ball up the court against the Chicago Bulls, who have never won a home game?
30, 20, and 20, and go win. Go win a final.
Tween cross, sidestep 3 ball to tie the game. Then he brings the ball back up again, ladies and gentlemen. He brings the ball back up again, ladies and gentlemen, and he ties the ball game against the Chicago Bulls. I've never seen anything like Victor Wembanyama. He's probably going to be the greatest basketball player to ever walk this earth. When it's all said and done, you heard it here first on Last Call. Give me Wemby.
You know, it's a great episode when we're screaming on Last Call, but I want to mention something that you guys did not talk about. You have Joel Embiid in your top 3.
Yes.
Give me someone who can play more than 60 games a year. That sounds like a lot, but it's not in the NBA. I mean, he's played 6 out of 12 games this year. It's already starting over again. Injury this, injury that, I don't care. Joel Embiid does not show up. He scores 70 points and his team loses. The more he scores, the worse his team does. That's not how basketball works. So he's just taking a lot of bad shots. I'm not a huge fan of Joel Embiid. His play style, he whines, he cries. No, get him out of here. He's not in the top 5. But now it's time, I think, we step aside. I do respect putting Anthony Davis up there. I do like it.
He stinks
but
too.
Just the injuries are another reason. Yeah, that's where I was going. The injuries are just another reason why I cannot put Anthony Davis. He's probably out for the rest of the season with a broken toenail. Like, it doesn't even matter. So right now, Wembanyama, not the best. I have to agree with Caden. Nikola Jokic is unanimously number 1. Nobody does the thing Jokic does. It's just two different things. Nobody does what Wemby does, and nobody does what Jokic does. They're just two different beings.
As a 7'4" basketball player, you're not supposed to make every other player in the NBA look like a literal child. He blocked Draymond Green's shot 3 times in a row. We know who Draymond Green is. When he played Anthony Davis, the first game of the season, he gave him 40.
I mean, Anthony Davis is not good. He's all right.
You know what? Since we're talking about this, I can't wait until the episode after he plays the Nuggets. That Last Call segment is going to be.
Are we still talking about Anthony Davis?
No, we're talking about Wemby.
I'm talking about the best center in the NBA.
You know
right
what's
now,
crazy about
Victor
that?
Wembanyama.
I guarantee you Victor does go out and has a great game, but I bet he loses.
You bet he loses?
I bet he loses.
You know what?
$5 bet on Last Call. We're getting a little action.
Everything you got.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Caden Colford. Let's do it. Here on Last Call, Nuggets versus Spurs. We'll let you know when that happens, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Well, look, now it's time to put our money where our mouth is, put our picks where our mouth is. Look at that Primetime Pick Em with the Bucks and Cavs being the first game on our slate today. That's tonight. When the Bucks travel to Cleveland, what happens, Jake?
I think it being in Cleveland makes it a little bit different, and it kind of changes how I look at it. But I picked against the Bucks last time. I thought the Bulls, their guard play, would be able to overpower Giannis and his ability to score. It wasn't. And
yeah, so why are we picking the Bucks here?
I think
Giannis is probably the best player on the court, isn't he? I do. Everyone's hating on Giannis.
I
can't get over that,
pretty
guys.
good, but I would say that, yes, Giannis is the best player between the Bucks and the Cavs. But anyway, nonetheless, I'm going to go with the Bucks.
Me too. Me too. And you guys know why. You know why. All right. Wolves and the Suns. Man, I'm on one today.
Just because,
We're in Phoenix.
they're not playing each other. It's not like it's a matchup between Victor Wembanyama and Giannis. You're picking a top 3 guy against nobody. He's playing Jared Allen.
All right, man.
I don't even know if he's still on the team anymore. But anyway, move on. Wolves, Suns. The Wolves are better than the Suns.
I think too.
That's a pretty easy.
Let's mark her down.
The Suns getting rid of Kevin Durant, I guess you just want to make the move, but you trade away the best offensive scorer in basketball right now.
All right. And now in in Philadelphia, Miami will travel to play the 76ers. I'm actually going with the 76ers.
Well, I was going to go with the 76ers, but I'm going to just switch it up. I'll go with the Heat. Joel Embiid's probably not going to play. If you're a 76ers fan, don't get your hopes up. He's probably going to be at the end of the bench in his street clothes, looking like a bum. It's what he does 70 games out of the year. And
I thought I was a harsh guy. Okay, look. Giants at Lions. And, this stinks that we have to choose between these two. The Giants, who looked so promising at the beginning of the year, just end up firing Coach Dable. And
why are we picking this? All right, I'm going with the Lions. This is that video of like radioactive atomic bomb versus a little baby. I mean, this is no matchup for New York. They might as well not show up. Can you forfeit in the NFL? I think maybe they should think about that. But
in Detroit, just in case that meant anything.
I'm going Lions. Ben Johnson, he's going to put up 65 points on him, no doubt.
And then finally, Colts are playing the Chiefs. This is a big one. This could decide. We always ask, is it truth? Is this legitimate? I think this decides it for the Colts going to Kansas City, to Arrowhead to play the Chiefs.
If you hear my spiel last week about Patrick Mahomes being in the MVP odds, we got what we wanted. All the people with me, we got what we wanted. He's out. He's not even in the top 10 anymore. The Chiefs suck. They're 5-5, not going to win the division. But in this game, I think they give the Colts a close one, and Daniel Jones pulls it out. Colts win.
Look, guys.
Oh, no.
I love my Hoosier heritage. I really do. And I love Indianapolis. I love the Colts. I love Jonathan Taylor. But I've actually been caught on camera holding Patrick Mahomes pretty high, and that's for good reason. This guy is not going to go down to a losing record. Kansas City will not have a losing record this season. It's just not going to happen. So I do think the Chiefs win at home against the Colts team, even off a bye, and Kansas City.
I don't even want to see the records. I know I had another bad week.
Let's see them anyways.
Oh, I guess we went even, whatever it was, because you were up 2 last week, so that works out. I need the Colts to win, though. I need the Colts to win, not just for the Indy fans, but I need them to win for me.
You know what? I can root for the Colts, but I'm still not going to pick the Colts against I'd say number 3 quarterback of all time. Let's call it that.
Hater
We'll have
mentality.
that conversation another day. I'm up 2. Last call. See you next week.